Hey, welcome to another edition of LaborVision Podcast. You can always get on LaborVision at LaborVision.org. And we also have our sister website, which is American Workers First with an S.org. American Workers First with an S.org and LaborVision.org. Today in our studio, we got AFSCME. Local 1659. And those of you that don't know what AFSCME is, I'm going to give you the letters very slowly. That is AFSCME. And I'm going to let President Darlene Buffington, which is one of our guests, I'm going to have her later on tell you what those letters mean, because, you know, we want everybody to be knowledgeable about what we're talking about. But President Darlene Buffington is president of Local 1659, and she's in the studio today. And Paula Pritchett is also in the studio with us, and we're going to be talking about working paramilitary in a paramilitary environment. Hey, ladies, how you doing today?
Great. How are you?
We're just fine.
Good.
Thank you for having us back again.
Hey, thank you for coming back again. We really, really appreciate it. I'm glad that you all are taking advantage of this vehicle, as I like to call it, so that we can be ready to get our story out here. LaborVision is where our story is truly told. President Darlene, what does those letters mean? I guess we need to hit that first before we get into the paramilitary environment that we're working in these days.
AFSCME stands for the American Federation of State and County Municipal Employees. That means you have employees that work for government entities like the state of Michigan, the city of Detroit. Some of the teachers' unions are incorporated with that. Anything that has to do with your local government.
See, she wins the prize for telling us that information, right? All right. Paula, how you doing?
I'm great. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Hey, thanks for coming on to the show. You ain't nervous, are you?
No, not at all.
Okay, cool. We're laid back environment.
Yes.
Tell us, what's that word y'all had me use?
AFSCME.
No.
Oh, the other one.
Oh, paramilitary.
Paramilitary. What is a paramilitary environment? Let's start with that.
I'll start off with saying that I work at the Wayne County Sheriff's. For the Wayne County Sheriff at the jails. And paramilitary environment is similar to the military, where you have a chain of command, where you have, it's almost like a hierarchy, where you have your officers at the bottom, your corporals, then you have your sergeants, lieutenants, captains, and then commanders that run kind of everything. So it's basically a chain of command that you have to deal with.
Okay.
Paula's one of my newer stewards. You know how my last one, Nicole, I indicated that she was my militant type of
right. I do remember that.
steward. This is my prayer warrior right here. She's
All
my prayer
right.
warrior.
Okay,
She's
cool.
a fellowship of the Sacred Heart Church sister.
Okay.
And she prayers them into correcting what they do.
Use the power of prayer.
Hey, that's what you got to do. You
All
got
right.
to step
Okay.
out on faith.
Amen.
Faith without work is dead.
All right.
So I'm working it.
Amen.
I'm working it.
Great job. So, hey, tell us what's going on.
So basically, sometimes some of the civilians at the Wayne County Jail, they run into issues with the chain of command on exactly what their role is and how they have to deal with the officers and the sergeants and stuff like that. So I run into some difficulties with that.
They have to fall in line, per se.
Mm.
And how can you fall in line when you're not an officer, you're not involved in the chain of command in regards to the training?
Mm-hmm.
You're a civilian.
Right.
So I come from a background where I used to work at JDF, which stands for Juvenile Detention Facility, which is a part of the Wayne County Family and Children's Services. And you still have to, that's that when that paramilitary stuff kind of comes in, and it kind of shows you how to use the chain of command. Who do you talk to when you have an issue with one of the officers? Who do you go to? So if while we're doing our job, if you have any type of difficulties, you start off, you go to your shift command and you go to one of the sergeants and let them know, and you try to have a conversation. And I'm always big on communication.
Right.
If we
right.
communicate, we're going to know. Also, we need to read as well, because in every operation, you have a policy and a procedure on things you're supposed to do.
Right.
And Wayne County is good at writing things down.
And we probably should be as well.
Correct.
Can I just do a real quick pause there? Because employers are really good at stacking the deck. And policies and procedures is not just for them, it's for us as well.
Absolutely.
So it's where everybody knows what the rules are, right? If I know what the rules are, I can play by the rules. So that way when I break the rules, then there's consequences. I'm okay with that, but I need to know what the rules are.
Absolutely.
We don't know, we're in trouble. Proceed, please. I just wanted to throw that in there.
And you're exactly correct. And I'm a firm believer in, if you know better, you'll do better.
Yes.
So these policies are available to you. You just have to sit down, take the time out, and actually read them. If you read the policies, you'll know what you can do, what you can't do, how to really maneuver in that secure environment. So you have to go back and read. So I always try to encourage our members, read the policy and know the difference between something that has been violated in your CBA over a policy violation.
What's a CBA?
CBA is your collective bargaining agreement.
Ah.
That is your contract.
All right. That's what I'm talking
we're
about.
in negotiations with right now to get together for October 1st. And our president she's fighting for us. She's going in and she's negotiating hard for us to get us the things we need.
So when is that contract? When does it expire? When does it expire, or has it expired?
Our contract expires September 30th, 2019.
Okay, so you still under contract as you're negotiating.
Yeah.
When did you guys go into negotiations?
No, we started fairly late. We started in August.
Lately, everybody I've been talking to been starting late with their negotiations, and they've been having to extend the contract and do different things. We had 1 year at AT&T where they came out and was like, hey, we just want to do X, Y, and Z, and we had our contract before expiration date. One time in my 32 years of being at AT&T.
That sounds wonderful.
Well, yeah, for that one time. All the other times it's always been an extension or something that's going on. I don't know why that seems to be the running thing here, right? Is, hey, can we wait till the last minute to tell everybody what they're going to do? It's just like a cat and mouse game.
Yeah.
But you all still got time, because you still got days. How is negotiations going? I mean, you can't give details. I get that.
Very slow.
That's the story of everybody's life.
Yeah.
You already know what it is. Negotiations is not what everybody thinks it is. It's not like you're going to go in at the table and just talk. There's an exchange of information from one side, and then there's an exchange of information from the other side. And then there's exchange again when you meet again, but you have to wait. You have to set dates. You have to have availability. It's a time-consuming process of saying yes, no, yes, no, 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 yes. I hold my position.
Yeah. And you're referring to the proposals that's passed, where you take the proposal, you accept it, or you may change that proposal, say, I'm cool with this.
Correct.
But I would like to see this in conjunction with this, and then you send it back across the table, and it is back. A lot of people, and I'm going to say people, not just members, feel that negotiation is you going in there banging on the table, asking for something, and you get it. I have never had those negotiations ever again in life out of all the contracts that I've experienced. I've never had that. It's always been the proposal. Now, what's really cool is sometimes during negotiations, what happens is we'll talk, and then they'll go, yeah, that is a good idea. And you almost work it out in a conversation sometimes, not on all matters, but in some matters, especially if it gets really, really close. So, but what is the hold up on this contract? Well, what is going really slowly on this one? Is it wages? Is it benefits? Is it,
well,
what's the sticking
for those
point?
of you that didn't chime in previously, I indicated I'm a portion of more than one unit that bargains. There's other locals attached. So you have what's called a committee, and all of the presidents and whomever that local picks out comes forth as a committee, and we sit down and we meet and we hash out and we talk extensively on what we believe should be addressed in our contract negotiation talks. And then you also have labor. They come in, they have their team, and they have the management or administrative or elected officials that they invite to come in during the negotiations to see the proposals, to be attached to what's going on initially. So that's another reason why it's a time-consuming process. You have the committees, and they have to meet, and they have to agree, and you have to go back and forth with the proposals and deciding the information. And that can be time-consuming in itself with all these different individuals trying to decide or agree on something to bring forth initially. So that would slow down our process immensely. As I indicated to you previously, I am quick primarily in my negotiations when I'm negotiating just for 1659. But with Wayne County, it's not so simple because you have other locals locked in.
So collectively, what is the biggest hurdle you all are dealing with? Is it job security?
That hasn't even come forth on the table. There's too many things to name.
Oh my goodness!
You have multiple articles within the Wayne County contract, and
okay.
you know, for those civilians that don't know, and people that aren't under contract working, you people that just work in entities that are privately owned, and you don't deal with contracts. Contracts are set up where you have, like a dictionary. You know, you have your initial area where you have the table of contents. It's like a table of contents. It indicates all the articles that are listed. Your articles start with something with like purpose and intent, which would indicate what the purpose of the contract would be. Then you have the breakdown from article to article citing what is initially within your contract from that table of contents. And we have more than 40 articles. So that's going to be time consuming to break down and to decide.
So you really don't have like with our contract, our main thing was job security and future jobs.
Yeah.
And, you're right. That's almost like a letter of agreement. Yeah. But that was really a concern of ours because, we can sign this paperwork and get this pay and everything. But if there's no future jobs and there's no job security and you can just get rid of us at any time that you want, we can freeze all of that. Give me the job security so I know that I have a job later on.
And see, your type of work is able to be contracted. That's not so easy.
Yeah.
But it's becoming an issue with government. Whereas she's a civilian working in with officers, they have contracted out jobs in the Wayne County jails.
Absolutely.
Just like the city, like the city of Detroit, they've contracted out our nursing positions.
Outsourcing.
Outsourcing.
Well, they don't do it that way. They say that it's outsourcing, and they say it's not privatized. Your water department is privatized. Okay,
our medical
you don't
have
you don't have an administrative hearing process like you used to previously.
No.
And who do you answer to? And now with them contracting out the jobs in the Wayne County Jail, you have the nurses, they're contracted out. They didn't realize that they were contracted out. Every time you have a different contractor, they have control. And that's what we have the situation, like they said, paramilitary. Who do you answer to? Are you answering to these officers? Are you answering to this contractor?
Right.
Are you answering to Benny Napoleon? Are you answering to Warren Evans? Who do you answer to?
Right.
What is the protocol?
Right.
Who do we talk to? What do you do when your loved one is locked up in this jail and there's an issue with a nurse? What is the protocol?
Right.
How do you know as a civilian who you talk to in that paramilitary environment? Just like in the court system, it's a little more clear. You have the officers in the courtroom. And when you have an issue with an officer, you know to go to shift command.
Right.
That's a given. But you don't have those answers in entities like the jails. You don't have those answers when you're in the precincts. You know you have civilians doing typing, but you also have officers behind the desk. You don't know the protocol.
And I'm kind of noticing too how they kind of some of our union members, the officers are doing their job, like in our supplies and stuff like that. Where we have supply people that are supposed to pass out the supplies, they've taken over their job, and they have the officers giving it out now. So those people that are in supplies are worried about their job. Like,
So wait a minute. So you're saying that my job is to pass out it's supplies, not office supplies, but supplies just in general. And they're having someone else pass those supplies out.
Absolutely.
Well, that might be the president's fault because I did address this. That was a security risk. You have officers that have items to protect themselves like mace and the batons. You all are civilians. That's where protocol came in. I spoke on this because I found out that the individuals were walking around. They're right in the parameters of the prisoners' accessibility. That's a civilian. That was a security risk. You all shouldn't have never have been doing that because you were in the parameters that wasn't addressed previously. So I can say that's not your job security being in jeopardy, but that was the issue of you all not being aware that you shouldn't have been in that close of proximity of individuals convicted. And you don't know what they're convicted of. You don't know what the risks were. This was brought up to higher ups, and that was a correction made.
So let me get this straight. So you're saying that we had civilians passing out supplies to prisoners with no protection.
Well, I can't say no protection. But
Well, no personal protection.
there you are.
Let me say it like that. So
if
one of them, you know, if you have a young lady, and I'm just saying she weighs 150 pounds and she's passing out, if one of the prisoners, and I'm not saying that all prisoners are violent, that's not what we're saying here, but we're just saying you're in an environment with prisoners, and if somebody decided they felt froggy and wanted to leap, they could leap, beat somebody up pretty good, or at least get a good hit in. Where was how close was the nearest officer? I guess let me ask that one.
Well, basically, to kind of go back on that is it goes with, in the jail, you have security clearance on certain things that civilians can do.
Okay.
And they go by badge colors. And usually, most of the time, the civilians that have access to work with inmates, their badge colors are different. So some workers in the jail are to work with certain inmates, like the trustees and stuff like that.
Okay.
Because trustees are there to kind of pick up the slack, and as well as work towards their
work release,
the work release and stuff. So
okay.
At that, with even with cleaning and passing out supplies, they will have inmates that are trustees to help with the civilian workers, and the civilian workers that are allowed to work with them, they have different color badges. I personally had an issue with I delivered the mail in the jail. I had an issue with the fact that due to the color of my badge, that I'm actually not supposed to have any contact with inmates.
But you were passing out mail to the inmates?
But passing out mails to the inmates. But again, this is when policy comes in, and management has a right to change policy. So when I brought it to their attention that this is taking us out of our job description, for one, because again, according to your policy, your security clearance depends on everything. So if you don't have the security clearance to work with inmates, why are you being accessible to inmates like that? So, but they went in and they changed the policy and kind of told me it was more like, well, commissary has to deal with them. So you're just giving them mail. So that shouldn't be a problem. I said, but it is a problem. I should not be that up close with inmates anymore.
So you don't have the security clearance to be
In proximity.
close proximity of the inmates,
Exactly.
but you are. But they're saying, hey, you're only passing out mail.
You're only passing out mail. And I'm like, well, initially in your policy, and I'm sorry, I'm very policy driven. If you write it, I
No.
believe,
You're supposed to be policy driven.
And I believe
Everybody should be, even if they're not if they're in a union or not. You're supposed to know what your policy is. If the policy says that you're not supposed to take money out the cash register to go get change, you're not supposed to take money out the cash register to go get change. You're supposed to get a manager, bring it in, and have them get the money. That's one of the reasons why we got this program, because people need to recognize that even at their regular job, labor isn't just unions, it's all of us. You need to know what your policies and procedures are, because if you're violating that, you can lose your job, and in some cases possibly lose your life.
Right. So when I had brought to their attention that in your policy, it says that the civilian mail worker is to take the mail and give it to the unit officer. And the unit officer is to pass the mail out. But they decided to change that because now they want to treat inmates as customers. So
Okay.
if the inmates are saying that the officers are not giving them their mail, they're listening to them, and they're saying, well, we're going to ensure that you guys who are our customers, okay?
So wait, hold on. But here's the thing. Let's go back to the policies and procedures. So I get that they go, okay, we're not going to let the officers pass the mail out again. We'll just let the regular folks pass the mail out, okay? I get that. But don't they have to change the policy for the badges and the security clearance?
They should.
Because that's going to say, well, yeah, I would do this, but my security clearance tells me I can't. So you can't just change this. You have to change
everything. But it's still walking around with the.
And that's where I had an issue. I finally got a pyramid showing me who was in charge of the different entities. There's different divisions. There's Division 1, 2, and 3 with Wayne County. And even with the pyramid showing me who initially is in charge of each division, there's still, I can say safely, an indiscrepancy as to who has control over certain divisions. So say if you're doing commissary and you're doing cleaning and you have to get supplies from commissary, from cleaning, which supervisor are we talking to? Are you talking to an officer supervisor or a civilian supervisor?
Oh, wow. The lines blur up on that.
Yes. It kind of blurs up, but mostly it seems like under all the civilians. Well, I'll take that back. I know in classification, they do have have an officer supervisor up there. But other than that, it's mostly civilian supervisors that they still, you're still about that chain of command, knowing who to talk to and all that stuff.
And that's where the sergeants will step in and say, well, I said do so-and-so. And I have to intercede and say, now, wait a minute. Are my employees talking to you? Or are they talking to you?
Right.
And when I get in that indiscrepancy, I have to contact HR under Mr. Napoleon and say, give me some clarification.
Right.
My people can't be insubordinate or not taking the directive if they don't have the clarification and you all aren't clarified as to who's doing what. And until you get that together, and they know what the protocol is, don't try and put a case on my person because they're not following a directive of an officer. Or don't say they're insubordinate as an employee because they're not listening. That's the power struggle of knowing your place as a civilian working amongst officers. Who do you listen to?
So let me ask you something. Who's over the jail, period? Who's the person?
Benny Napoleon.
So he's the person that's over the jail.
He's over.
He's the Wayne County Sheriff.
He's the head of the Wayne County Sheriff. But over the chief over the jails is Robert Dunlap. Is the chief over the jails.
He's the undersheriff.
So
no, the undersheriff is Dan Fanis. Is the undersheriff, and Chief Dunlap is the chief over the jails and the courts.
Okay, so let me get this, because I'm trying to figure out a way to see, like you said, who's in charge, because somebody has to hire the civilians, and then somebody's bringing in the officers. Who does all of these people? Some kind of way the chain of commands got to go with it.
It doesn't connect like that. That's what I'm trying to
really?
say. Benny Napoleon's office has a civilianary HR department.
Okay.
The officers are hired in through the Wayne County Sheriff's Department. They're divided. They're all Wayne County Sheriff's employees, but you have the civilian divisions. We have civilians that work in the Wayne County Sheriff's Department,
right,
in the jail,
right,
in the Coleman Young Municipal Center, but they're employees under Kathy Garrett's office.
Oh my!
That's a county clerk.
There you have it. This pyramid figuring out throughout Wayne County.
It's just all
who
over
do I
the
work
place.
for? Yes. And
thank God I got a union, because you can go to the union hall and be like, "Hey, figure this out."
And
right?
then that's
Seriously.
our problem, fighting to figure it out and getting the clarification and the clarity to say, "Hey, who do my people work for? Who are they going to answer to?" Oh, believe me, I'm shooting off emails all the time, and I said, "I know you all have seen my name, but here's another pop-up. What's going on?"
So in this situation, this complicated situation, I guess the best thing to do is do what you're doing, is just look at the policy and procedures. And
Absolutely.
I mean, literally be like, here, I'm highlighting it.
Absolutely.
This is what I'm doing, and covering your butt, because we can try to be PC friendly here. Covering your butt.
Absolutely.
What did you just say, Darlene, about sending emails? Correct. So in other words, the moment I get challenged on something that I should be doing, maybe I should be sitting. Maybe I should be doing an email saying, "Hey, per this such and such, this is or policy and procedure. It says da 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 da."
Well, we do that per our CBA. We try to follow the protocol. You have conversations before you grieve it. But if it gets to the point you can't get past the conversation, you're putting that paper on management in regards to not following the CBA procedures. With us, Wayne County Civil Service rules.
Okay.
And with me, it's Michigan Civil Service rules, because we're public employees.
And you cannot strike.
Correct.
Right. So let's be real clear. You guys are negotiating the contract. Where's your power at? If you can't strike, where's your power?
We have none.
I'm going to disagree with you on that. Now I'm going to disagree. No. You do have power. And it's the power of you all mobilizing. That's where your power is. It's
the more we come together, the more
exactly. That's where it is. That's straight talk brings straight understanding. Strike is not everything. In some incidents, it works fine. It is not a blanket for everything, right? But it's when you all get together collectively and collective work actions, because it's stuff that you can do. That
it's a tool.
Yeah,
striking is a tool, but in our instance, our tool, it takes people wanting to be proactive, and union is proactive for everyone, but everyone isn't proactive for union.
True that. But the cool thing is all of you all coming together to get this contract.
Correct.
That's what the beauty of all this is. And here's the other piece: educating people, so that the public knows, hey, what's going on with you? Are you just out there just being greedy, or are you trying to just figure this thing out? And from the way it looks to me, when the public hears this podcast, they're going to be like, it ain't just you. You're not being greedy. You're trying to figure this out. Because if I got two people telling me you need to go to red or you need to go to blue, do I go to red? Do I go to blue? You have to go and look at a policy. By that time, somebody be done wrote you up for not doing it. You want to red or blue. Absolutely. You follow me? So that's the bad part about this. And you know what? Here's the other piece of this. you all aren't the only people involved in this situation. The difference is you have a union. So you have a union that can come up and say, no, we're going to fight this. You go back to work. We're going to fight it. Other people are doing this, and they're no union, losing their jobs, losing their, loss of pay. They have no recourse, no action that they can take. There's nothing, their friends that's working with them on jobs going, well, that ain't right because she did or he did tell you that and you did it anyway. And that's the sad part. You're not the only ones going through this whole thing. Everybody, no matter what job you have, should be reading your rules and regulations. You should know what you can and can't do. You should be fully aware. And also, everybody should cover their butts between texting, emailing, whatever the tools that you are given. Letter writing, old-fashioned letter writing. Hey.
Now tell me, what do you do in an instance where management tells you not to email anymore?
Keep emailing them. Keep the paper trail strong.
You know what? I mean, my thing, I guess, and here's the thing. If you have a union, you're gonna take it to your local. But if it's something and you don't have a union, you probably need to go get a union. I mean, seriously, because you're right. They can't say you all can't email no more.
And you've been told.
But I would write a letter. Just to answer your question.
Yeah.
Recording certain things, it's not upheld in the court, but people say all the time, you can't record my conversation without my permission. Well, it's a conversation that's including me, and if I'm playing this conversation back for the validity of what my statements are, I can record you, and I can play it back if I'm apportionate of this conversation.
You said something very valid. You have to be part of the conversation to record it.
Somebody.
Yeah, you have to be part of the conversation. I have heard that because a lot of people's like, oh no, you can't. So no, that person's part. Now I cannot sit a recorder in on YouTube,
absolutely,
and walk away and be like, hey,
whatever y'all said, I'm listening to.
Right. Now that would be something I would have to go, hey, you mind if I record this? Because I'm gonna be in and out of the room, and in some cases, yeah, some cases, no. Or even when we call people on the phone, or not we call people, when we talk to our businesses on the phone, they say this call may be recorded.
Right.
They're telling you, and you can also tell them, I don't want this conversation recorded.
Correct.
So I mean, yeah,
they be trying to say it's for quality purposes and for training purposes.
It's always for quality purposes. It's always for
training,
safety. It's always for purposes. Yes, I'm gonna nail you. I'm gonna nail you to the cross on it. Lady, so your contract is up when again?
September 30th, 2019.
All right, September 30th, 2019. What can the public do to help you all out?
Initially, write our commissioners and state reps and indicate that we should have support within our government as to the issues and being able to be viably paid and brought up to, the standards of living, the cost of living that's assessed nationwide, throughout Wayne County. That's not occurring. We're the most povertized and the lowest paid county and the largest county.
So, devil's advocate, who should they write? Should they send a letter straight to Benny Napoleon?
No, if they're in whatever their district is, if you're District 1, 2, 3, 4, if you're at whatever your area is, you have a state representative for each district. You have commissioners, District 1 through, I think, 14.
Okay.
Right. And if you're in Wayne County, but if you're in other counties, you should viably follow the same guideline for the employees in those counties. They may not be unionized.
Right.
They may be contractual, and they may be, portioned to the same treatment that we're suffering from, and they don't have anyone to, address these issues because they are what is called contingent. They're written in a personal contract between them and that entity, and they're not protected or governed by any type of paperwork to cover their job. They're just doing a job. As me and Ms. Pritchard were talking about earlier, you've got people throughout Wayne County working in these positions, like she said, at the jail, and you're not knowing these protocols. some people hire in and don't know that they have the right to be unionized and they're within the union.
Right.
If they're not told.
Right.
And as a civilian, you can't step to an officer and say, oh, I want to go talk to this individual. You have to follow a protocol. You have to get through the security access.
Right.
It took me a while as a president to be able to access my people, you know. And I had to make them aware, you know, I can't just walk in this building, you know. And people are losing jobs that have been there for years and years.
Now, wait a minute. So what happens when they need representation, when they're getting ready to fire them? Do they, how do you represent them?
I had an instance when I was first elected, an individual was cut loose without union representation, and that's a process.
Did they ask for union representation?
One side says yes, the other says no.
Because I'm going to be honest with you. I have had situations where they brought the person in the office, fired them, and they did not ask. And that was the Department of Labor, you know, that was the argument that they're according to the rights, they're supposed to ask for it, which is like, if they don't know to ask, they're not going to ask, we're not going to offer it to you, you're out the door, and that's the end of it. So that is kind of like a railroad thing. Hey, I ain't gonna say, I know better, but I ain't gonna say nothing. Yeah. Which that ain't exactly telling the truth. People think, you know, no, I didn't lie. I just didn't say nothing.
Correct.
That's kind of part of lying. Yeah, that's part of lying. And I mean, that's what we got to kind of get out of as a people. And I say people, I'm talking about everyone, all nationalities, everything. That we have to have each other's back. I mean, if we're in the union, hey man, you know you're in the union. When you go in there, tell them you
always.
Yeah.
Ask for that steward. Don't go in there alone, because it can go bad then.
And that's exactly what it's doing for these people.
Because even with my issue that I had, my steward came and he was there, and I was glad that we were able to work it out, because they kind of even with the situation and the security clearance and all that stuff and badge color, at the end of the day, they kind of looked at me and saying, okay, Ms. Pritchett, you worked at JDF, because that was one of my biggest issues why I didn't want to hand deliver the mail, because I was seeing kids that I had supervised when they were younger. Now I see them over in the adult jail. Anytime you see anybody that you know in the jail,
you have to divulge
that information,
or you can lose your job.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Because they consider that fraternizing. You're not allowed to fraternize.
So if I knew this kid, if he was in my youth group at church or something years ago, I haven't seen him in years, and I happen to walk in there and he's
as an employee, you need to divulge that. And my recommendation, if any of my union members are listening, tell union first, and then we will proceed to inform management in the correct mannerism of the incident, and that you are divulging what occurred so you do not put your job in jeopardy.
And again, that goes back to reading your policy, which I always encourage people. Read your policy, because that's in there, and it's in there. And you know, read that. Know your job. I had to immediately, as soon as I got there, I wasn't even working there probably a few months. I'm walking through the jail. First thing I hear, hey, Miss Pritchett. So immediately I turn around, and it's one of the kids that I used to supervise. And he goes, Auntie, what are you doing over here? I said, no, what are you doing over here?
Ooh.
Because Auntie fussed a lot at juvenile. A lot. Ooh. But at the end of the day, when I had told my supervisor, I knew that kid, she was like, I need you to write a letter about that. She said, you need to put that on paper right away, because one of the officers even said, I heard him call her Auntie. So automatically you thinking that this kid is really related to me, when
that's just a name.
It's just a name.
It's a nickname.
It's just a name that kids will call you.
Term of endearment in the black community.
Absolutely. Especially if they have respect for you.
Yes.
Yeah. If they have a certain amount of respect for you.
Auntie, cuz.
That's Auntie, Mama P.
Big Mom.
And I got in trouble for that one too.
Pops.
Mama P. And, but it's there when you have this certain rapport with people, and that you are a nurturer and a caregiver by nature. That's what you do. I come from that. My family is that background. We take care of people. We feed people. My mama was the lunch lady. So a lot of people know us as feeding people.
And that's good.
So you know what I'm saying? So when I worked at JDF, I took care of those kids. I made sure they got their meals. I made sure they went to school. I treated them as if they were my children because I was held accountable for them for 8 hours or maybe 12 or even 16 sometimes.
Right.
So they knew me, I knew them. So I had to go write a letter and make sure that they didn't think that this kid was actually my relative or that I would be giving him any special treatment due to the fact that I know him.
Right.
Which, again, policy person
Right.
here.
We're going back to
Civilians
read.
working with officers.
Don't sit there and just sign paperwork and you got to read it. You got to understand it because you could do something really simple and you end up losing your job.
Absolutely. And that's just speaking to somebody. It could be speaking to somebody or them speaking to you and you didn't say anything. And
jeopardizing your security clearance.
Yeah, jeopardizing it. Because they're thinking that you're going to do something outside of the policy to help these people. And I'm like, nope. What you're going to get from Ms. Pritchett is what Wayne County say you can have. And Wayne County gave me a policy and procedure on what they said you can have and what you can't have. And I'm going to make sure that happens. And like I said, even when I was at juvenile, we had a policy. We are to make sure the kids are safe, secured, and protected.
Right.
I'm held accountable. So I'm definitely one of those paper policy procedure type people. And if you're going to get me, you're going to get me because I didn't do something that y'all had wrote down for me.
Right.
That's the only way you're going to get me. Other than that, you can't make me change my personality. You hired me because you felt like I know the people in the community and I'm here to serve them and help them. So I'm going to come do my job because regardless, locked up, confined, they're still human beings. They're somebody's son, daughter, niece, nephew, grandchild.
Yeah. It's sad that they're locked up.
It's sad.
Yeah,
so
that's
but they still belong to people.
Still belong to people and the people that's there working and still trying to make a living.
Absolutely.
And, the real thought of this whole podcast here is, you got to pay attention to your employment. You got to read. If you do not have a union, this is one of the reasons why you need a union. Because you can have somebody that can have your back when it comes to reading this documentation and not getting, screwed over, for lack of a better word, because a supervisor or somebody don't like you. If everybody would treat everybody 100% fair and everything was on a straight up, even playing field, we wouldn't need unions. But unfortunately, that's not the case.
That's in the perfect world in my head.
Yeah, it's in the perfect world. So,
But it's in my head, though.
Yeah, right, exactly.
In that world in my head, that perfect world is just like that.
Right. If we had that perfect world, we would not need unions. And that's, like I said, if you like unions, not like unions, this is the reason why we do need unions for this. But here's the thing. Even if you don't have it, like I said, this is LaborVision. We're talking about labor.
Yes.
You got to sit down. You got to do your homework. You got to read. You got to know where everything going. Ladies, thank you for a wonderful podcast. We're going to go ahead and get this push out. Remember that you can find this podcast on Spotify, iHeartRadio, and iTunes, okay? It is LaborVision, and LaborVision.org is the website, and AmericanWorkersFirst.org. Go ahead and go there on YouTube and see hear the podcast, see the podcast sometimes. It depends on if we got the camera up or not. But we really appreciate it. Ladies, thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Hopefully we can get you all back because that's what it's all about.
All right.
All right. Y'all have a good day and thank you for listening to this podcast.
Thank you.
Take care.